All right. Good morning. Happy Friday. You guys can hear me. Put it in the chat that you have me loud and clear. Let's see who we've got in the chat this morning. That's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I don't know if y'all feel that bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but we got things to do. We got goals to hit. We better get some coffee, treat ourselves to some good coffee. Happy Valentine's Day, y'all. Good morning. Andrea, good morning. Andrea sent me a nice little Instagram this morning, little motivation. Thank you for that. Casey, good morning. Don't forget to buy your clients chocolate from BP. Good morning, Savannah Banana. I feel like I just saw y'all yesterday, like not even 12 hours ago, but here we are, loud and clear, Anthony. All right, good morning, Krista. All right, let's kind of jump into it, guys. I'm excited for this morning. Almitra, happy Valentine's Day. I loved how Jordan has started implementing the hot seat on Thursdays, and I thought it'd be great to trickle those in on our Friday Q&As, just because, we learn from two things, mistakes and mentors. And the beautiful thing about being a powerhouse team is that we got a lot of powerhouses and we can learn from each other. We've got Chuka, and you can tell me if you like when I call you the bazooka, but it just rolls off the tongue. We've got Chuka Houghton on today. She's been with us since 2021, and she has kicked ass and taken names on the selling side and also on the building and leadership side. So no matter where you are, whether you're just coming in and you're 30 days in, or you are starting to build your agency, there's going to be something that you can get from Chuka this morning. And so I want you to have your pens ready, your ears listening, and to be able to take the nuggets that we give you today. So Chuka, good morning. Happy Valentine's Day. Do I have you?
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, I can.
Happy Valentine's Day. I cannot believe it. 2025 Valentine's Day.
I
That's
know.
so crazy.
I know it is insane. I'm excited. I'm doing fondue tonight. I don't know what y'all have planned. I do want to hear in the chat though what you guys have planned for Valentine's Day, whether you're doing a Galentine's, whether you're going out with your kids, whether you're going out with your hubby. John has taken all of us to fondue. So we've got cute little dresses and we're doing a family fondue night, which is exactly what I wanted. So here we go, guys. Let's jump into it. It is 8:33. So like I said, Chuka the Bazooka. 2021 came into this business. I'm going to rapid fire give you a little bit of her background. She can fill in some of those gaps. Some of you guys already know what her background is, some of you don't. So, like I said, she was a stay-at-home mom for a good bit of time. Then, what was it? She moved into being a business owner with Chris. I believe you guys owned a
Yeah, we had a convenience store and then a liquor store at the same time.
convenience store and a liquor store. And then she became a director of sales for Marriott and Hilton, which we'll kind of hear about that. And if anyone's off of mute, make sure that your lines are muted, y'all. And then why she chose NASB. So, Chuka, kind of jump into that.
Yeah, so at that time, a couple months prior, I just left my corporate job. It was COVID. And so I was one of the managers. So with that being said, I was the one who was pretty much forced to stay behind and still work. And so I got thrown from a sales to an operations. And it really just, it really just like hit me whenever, I had the hiring manager there of corporate. He's like, hey, look, I see you're working really hard. What is something that you want? And I looked at him, and this is me being a year and a half in with them. I looked at him and I said, hey, I want to be VP of sales. Dead serious, no smile on my face. And he looked at me, and I don't think he took me serious. I thought he was like almost baffled that I even said that. But that was the whole reason I was there. I wasn't there to be stuck in the same position for years. And so I finally realized that, the environment was becoming very toxic. If anyone has worked in a corporate America setting, trying to climb the ladder, it's not healthy. And so I found myself hating going to work every single day. And, then I finally quit. My husband he finally was like, okay, Chuekha, it's time. And then I jumped straight into nursing school. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew my best friend at the time was a travel nurse and she was making a lot of money. So I jumped into that. Um, that's a funny story itself, Laura, but it just wasn't for me. Nursing school in general, at almost 30 years old, was not for me. And so my husband knew that. I was struggling pretty bad because it wasn't for me. It wasn't anything that I wanted to do or even could do, honestly. So, him and Asia were friends for a very long time. And so I wouldn't say at that time, I chose insurance, Laura. I was honestly thrown into it by my husband. I remember interviewing with you and Asia, and it's so funny because we were on a car ride going to Dothan, which is an hour away from where we live. And he's like, hey, you have an interview, take it. And he just like pretty much hands me the phone in the car with the baby. And I'm like, okay, and so we just did it. And at that time, it just didn't make sense for both of us to be in school. I don't know what I had in mind or why I even thought it was a good idea for both of us to be in school and just kind of fly by through our savings. Like it just wasn't realistic. And so here I am, I know Asia and my husband have been friends since high school. And that's kind of how I got thrown into the insurance industry.
I remember interviewing you like yesterday. I was actually, I think I had met Marta not too far. I think we met halfway and I was riding with Marta that day and I think we were about to go into dinner and uh we interviewed and I remember talking to you and I remember you talking about being in nursing school and I was like, I don't know about being in nursing school, how this is going to transition or if this is going to be a good fit. But I mean, you have literally blown up. I think that what's really kind of good to see is that, you know, you were kind of like me when I was working at Chick-fil-A. I was looking for some opportunity. Like I had my head on a swivel, like, I don't know what I need to be doing, but this ain't it. And, with you saying, hey, you know what? I was looking to make good income. I had a vision for VP of sales. I want to do something big and I want to, have that flexibility, whether it's being a nurse, being able to work, here and there when you want to travel and make the income. And so it's finding the right vehicle. It's not always the vehicle that you think it's going to be because just like you, I never saw myself in insurance, never crossed my path. It just basically landed in my lap. And then when those opportunities or those platforms come, you got to be ready for them. And you were ready. So let's kind of jump into let's see here, some of that first year. I really want people to kind of gravitate towards what did you go through that first year? Not only just, obstacles, but mindset, mentality, the things that you learned that shape that first year. Because there's a lot of folks coming on that are brand new and they need to hear what does that really look like, the skill sets that you develop. And so I know that you did $120,000 of net business and that was from March. Kind of reminds me of Shauna because Shauna did the same thing. She came in at March and then did $120,000 of net business. But then you also got COVID in November, so you were out December. So basically, from March to November, you did $120,000 of business. You made $85,000 in commissions that first 9 months or so, and then you almost died. Okay, so let's kind of talk about that first year. Maybe start with your 90-day learning curve. What happened during
Yeah.
that period?
Yeah. So, it's so funny, Laura, that, when you've gone through things already and it's been time that's passed, you forget about the original struggles that got you to where you are today. And so I really had to think, honestly, because we don't come in being an awesome agent. We don't come in just rocking it out, being top producers with no learning curves. First thing is you have to understand that when mistakes are made, that you do have to learn from it. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So you might not even learn from those mistakes. But, with really thinking back, a lot of it was presentation. So to me, I wasn't great at my presentation, but I was very robotic. I just did everything the way I just read my presentation, right? Honestly, that's all I did. So I wasn't great at it to be able to produce that in the amount of time that I had. But my biggest struggle, and I see a lot of agents too struggling with this, was that step 4 So when we talk about like specific things in the presentation itself is one. The second thing I would say would be mindset and skill set, because both of them play hand in hand when you talk about, your first 90 days. But I'll kind of go back to presentation. So it's that step 4, that transition to life insurance, Laura. I always had a really hard time with that no cost policy review page. I don't know if it was just the butterflies because I knew I was about to have to do that policy review that was always so hard for me to do. And it was really the end of the presentation that I started to really realize that I was struggling with, which is the most important part, the closing part. And it's very hard to close if you don't have a strong transition. And so I've learned how to transition that no cost policy review page to where, and we hear this all the time, but until you're out of it, you don't see it. And so what I mean by that is, I wasn't, when you're in your Zoom training, right? Your 2 days. You and Ashley always say, hey, look, you got to be the doctor. You're not the nurse. You're not the receptionist. You're no one else but the doctor. And so I wasn't being the doctor at the no cost policy review. I didn't know the value of me yet. And so it was hard for me to apply that. And so now, I guess before I would almost be asking for it, right? Almost scared to get to that page. But now I think it's how I say it. It's with confidence. It's with, hey, it's direct, right? I'm not giving them an option. I'm just telling them. And it's how you present yourself that make the closing stronger. And I don't know if you want me to give you an example, Laura, but I definitely can if you want me to.
Yeah, so two things is it's having the ability to pinpoint where it is that you were struggling and to be able to say, okay, this is where my hangup is. Obviously, Asia, myself, all the things like having those coaching times with you because you were literally asking for coaching 24/7. But it's being able to see that and then knowing, hey, I didn't know the value of me yet. Please write that down. Someone write that down. I didn't know the value of me yet. Guys, there's so much value that you bring to the home if you do your presentation right and you can actually uncover the needs that they have. But yes, I want to hear the way that you transition into that no cost policy review page. We could talk about tonality, but you kind of hit on that. But what's the verbiage that you're using there?
Yeah, so before I literally just read it, right? No tonality. I read it and that's it. There were no extra questions at the end, right? So I'll give you an example. This is a rookie me, no cost. Hey, my next job is do no cost policy review. Ensure your policy will not expire. Ensure your premiums won't increase. Check to see if you're entitled to any discounts, upgrades, riders, cashback, and free insurance. I would just like look at them, right? Because I was so new. It's my first 30 days. It was awkward. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And then they would just be like, okay, I don't have anything, or I'm not giving it out. Okay. And this is like the more seasoned me. And so it's, hey, look, this is my job. So whenever you fill this out, I'm required to do this. It's that no cost policy review. This is actually what I do. I ensure your policy will not expire. Because if it does, you need to know when. Don't you think so? And I'm having them involved in this because I want them on my side. This is very important to have them on your side and have them involved when you're asking them questions. So when I say to ensure your policies will not expire, because if it does, don't you need to know when? And I look at them and I'm waiting for a response. They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. Because they're not just going to call you, Laura, and say, hey, look, your policy's expiring. And I go to number 2, we ensure your premiums will not increase. Because if it does, you need to know when. Don't you think so? They'll say yes. I'm like, again, Laura, they're not just going to call you and say, hey, your premium's increasing. And then I'll go straight into, and we check to see if you're entitled to any discounts, any upgrades, any riders. And we have to remember, because we do this every single day, clients have no idea what riders are. So I'm big at explaining to them what the riders are, because when you explain and take the extra couple seconds, it makes them think, do I have that? Or is that stripped away from me? So I say it's like the nursing home rider. So I'll say, Laura, if you ever go into a nursing home, you can access up to 100% of your policy. Or if you're terminally ill, meaning you have less than 12 months left to live, you can access a part of your policy. Don't you think that's important that you pay for it every single month? You should know if you have that. They'll say yes. And I'll say everyone's favorite, the cash back or any kind of free insurance. I say the same thing over and over and over again. And to them, and then this is really the question that after I've involved them and have that confidence in my tonality. Like I'm looking at them straight in the eyes. This page, I used to be kind of scared to look at them in the eyes because I was nervous, you know? And so I would look at them straight in the eyes and I'll say, and I'll just say, now, who did you say you have again? And whether they told me or not, I don't care. I'm saying it. And honestly, it works almost every single time. Don't ever skip that line. They'll just tell you who they have. And you say, okay, great. I work closely with them and we continue it. But yeah.
Me jump in there because there's a lot of good stuff. So again, seeing how when we first do that presentation, we're like spitting it out and we're regurgitating it, but the tonality, the way that we're saying it, how we are enunciating certain words, the way that we're, did you even notice the way that she says, don't you want to know? And like her tone went up a little bit, and then the look on her face, and then she's bringing in the client to answer that question. That's how you create urgency. That's how you create a deficit of what they currently have to create the call to action for you to do what? Get the policy to review the policy. So personality, which she was slow, she wasn't just spitting it out. She was making sure that they can hear her. My granddad used to say, you talk faster than my ears can hear. So I have to intentionally slow down, even right now, trying to make sure that you guys are hearing what I'm saying. I am purposely trying to slow down the way that I'm speaking. So it might hit a point that you're going to see, hey, this is important. So listen in. That's exactly what she's doing. That's what a presenter does. When we think about ourselves as presenting, we are. That this is the meat of your presentation, steps 4 through 8. You are presenting. So you really want to make sure that you're on and that they're hearing what you say and that you're not uh, taking it for granted that they understand everything that you're saying, because this is the first time that they've heard you present. Okay. So if you're getting pushback or you're like, well, why am I getting this objection? This doesn't work. No, it's how you are presenting. Okay. So again, Michelle says, my problem, I naturally talk so fast. But just like how Chuka said what she struggled with, once you know what it is, you know how to fix it. So even if you feel like you're talking like a sloth, because even right now, I feel like I'm talking like a sloth, y'all. But taking that time to slow down so you're hearing what I'm saying. A couple other things that you hit on. You're creating the urgency, you're involving them. And then that last line is so crucial, guys. Who did you say it was with again? Because you want to get those, we're talking about it all the time, getting those small pieces of information. Because if they can tell you, oh, yeah, I have Lincoln Heritage, it doesn't matter if they told you or not. But now you have another piece of information that's going to help you create that urgency or that call to action to review the policy. We work really closely with them. Don't you want to know if that's going to go up or if those premiums are going to increase? That's why you fill that card out, right? And then they're able to nod the whole time that Chuka was talking and she was explaining that step of the no cost policy review page. What was I doing? I was nodding my head because she was involving me and she was asking me questions. But if you're just you're not involving them, and you're going to miss 8 out of the 10 policy reviews. Good stuff. I think that's really, really big. Anything else that you want to add? And guys, keep the questions coming in here as we move through just some of the things that we talked about. This is your live Q&A. Whatever questions that you have for Chuka, put them in the chat. We'll try to get to a majority of those that come in. Anything else that you want to add before we kind of go into more things?
Yeah, I think also another thing that I struggled with too is that I was so hungry for the premium and the money and holding that, being in the top 5 every single week. And so also when you do that, you forget when you're just going through the moments and you're going through so many of those moments of the presentations, like you honestly forget how to learn to walk away from a sale. Or sometimes, what I like to call firing clients, you know? And I say that because not all business is good business. And so an example of that are like the red flags in clients. When you sat in there and you've seen maybe a pile of policies that have lapsed or they've canceled, or they're sitting there looking at their bank statement, telling you that they're going to call the bank to make sure they can get their money back because they didn't sign up for it. Or if their eyes are bigger than their pockets, right? So back then, I really didn't understand. If they told me, I didn't understand because I wasn't seasoned yet. I didn't fully understand what I was doing yet. So to me, I thought I was just giving them what they wanted. But it's not about giving your clients what they want. It's about giving something that can stick and stay on the books, because that'll be way more important than writing a policy for it to just cancel.
Hmm.
And also it goes back to, you know, learning when to walk away is, if a client keeps falling off the books, right? I'd say second time it falls off the books, I'll just call them and say, hey, look, I can't write you anymore. I'm sorry. Right. First time it's insufficient, we have that serious conversation. And this is the part where I'm talking about, hey, I'm firing this client, right? They're difficult, or if they keep having premiums that are insufficient. Now, if it's my fault, I'll claim up to it, right? If I did the bank and account routing number, human error on my part, I will claim it and we won't have that conversation. But if it's on them, insufficient funds, after I've already told them, hey, you got to keep that money in your account for 6 business days. If you don't, you'll be hearing from me, okay? Because it's not going to draft. And so then I call them and we have a serious conversation, because it's valuing your time and your expertise. And so I just tell them like it is. I just say, hey, look, are you going to be able to, like, is this in your budget? Because it doesn't matter what you want to have, it matters what you actually have. So let's decrease this premium, okay? And when you stick to that for a year, a couple months, right? More than a couple months or more than what you've already done, then we'll talk about adding on. And that's how I do it. It's just learning when to walk away from a sale when it's not, when it doesn't benefit you or the client. And as you do this, you'll realize too that it affects not only your chargebacks and that client and you and time wasted, but it affects a lot more of you being a valuable agent to our carriers.
Yes. Let me jump in there, hit on a few things that you said, and then we'll go to a couple questions, and then we'll move into um, some building stuff as well. Okay. So again, being able to look for those red flags, eyes bigger than their pocket. So they keep having people come in and they're writing policies that don't last forever. That should be a red flag. When you know your steps to the presentation and you're not thinking about what to be saying all the time, you can actually be in the moment and read the room. So that's the next step. And once you get out of your 90 days is, okay, how can I learn to read the room about the person that I'm sitting in front of? What's going to be the best thing for them? 3 strikes and you're out. That's a good rule of thumb. If someone keeps consistently falling off the books, put them with number one, Transamerica, if they have, Direct Express, or if they have not just Direct Express, but they have true Social Security billing, which will make sure that things stay on the books. So that's a really great carrier for people that are kind of wishy-washy there. But then 3 strikes and you're out. And that's okay. And how do we get to a point where we can do that is when we have enough quality activity. When we're doing the business the right way, that's when we're able to say, you know what, it doesn't matter if this person doesn't stay on the books because they're not benefiting my business and it's not benefiting them, but it's okay because I know that I'm going to make 5 or 6, 7 other sales this week. That's going to be okay with the fact that this person's not going to be on my books anymore. But if you don't have everything in order, that's when we get commission breath and we have to keep those back on the books. We have to keep writing them. And then we come into that hamster wheel, that thing that we don't want to be in is because we don't have the right activity there. Um, Tell me your schedule for the first year. What did that look like for you to do 85K in 9 months? What was your schedule?
Yeah, so honestly, my schedule was available Monday through Saturday. Anytime I had a call, it doesn't matter what time it was a referral. I was doing it right then, right there. If I had a call back, the whole point of it was being available my first year. So I didn't limit myself to the field, Laura. And I feel like, when you said, hey, what were the few things that you struggled with? That was the part of it. It's hard to narrow down everything to 2 to 3 things because there were so many things. I was available all the time. If I had a phone call on a Sunday to do a referral, guess what? I was doing it right then, right there. There wasn't any, hey, let's wait till tomorrow, right? It didn't matter. My schedule was available because I was new and I was building my book of business. So if field hours Monday through Friday, and then every other Saturday. And I didn't have a time when I came home. I came home when the job was done, when a couple of sales were made. I was very money hungry, I guess you could say. And I've never made that much money. So yeah, I was always available, but field hours Monday through Friday, I would say about maybe 9 till 7, maybe.
And you're building that muscle. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, one of the things that you're really big on is boundaries. Even with your clients, like, hey, you know what? Three strikes and you're out. We're gonna have a serious conversation. You learn these things from actually putting yourself in the position to learn the business as fast as you can. I think you made $9,000 your first month in this business because you were like, all right, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna get as much under my belt as possible. I think there's a key there over time that we can learn to refine that. And then it's like, okay, well, you know what? I was Monday through Friday, every other Saturday, and now you probably don't have to work Saturdays, right? But
Right.
I think that's big to know is that you made yourself available. If a thing came in, you were taking it, um, which is huge. Let's see what kind of questions we have coming in. Da, 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 da. If I can get up here. Ba, 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 ba. Trey says, how do you deal with rude customers or rude clients? Rapid fire with some tidbit on that, Chuka.
Yeah, so back then I used to be nervous, right? Because I was in their home and they were rude. I was knocking at their door and they were rude. But now, if I could tell my rookie self what I know now and everything that I've been through, one, the only way to deal with rude clients is deal with more rude clients because then you build tough skin. And then two, you start valuing your job. And when I say that, I mean, hey, look, and I'll just tell them, depends how bad it gets. Hey, look, I wouldn't be here if you didn't fill this out. So I'm just required to go over it with you. Let me take off my shoes before I come inside and I'll check you off the list. Right. It's your confidence at the door and letting them know, hey, I wouldn't be here if you didn't do this. So let's just get you off the list.
Hmm. It's assigning the responsibility and then knowing that when people, like if you have a rude client, like they're just human beings, people are peoply. And so count it as an approach. I think sometimes we take our approaches or our not our or our the presentations that aren't closes so seriously when like it's not. You're going to get 9 no's a day to get your one yes. You're going to have 10 approaches to 3 presentations. 1 out of 3 on average is going to close. So you're going to get 9 no's. Some of them are going to be not so ugly no's. Some might be, you know what, don't come to my door. But don't respond with their negativity and don't hold on to it. You have to move on to the next. Savannah says, I'll let you kind of rapid fire hit this one too. How do you close a sale after the client's told you multiple times they can't afford it? They say they can't afford even the smallest $5,000 coverage amount.
Yeah, I think that comes a lot with, hey, look, being a rookie agent, you have to truly understand why you do the living benefits, right? Why do you do the living benefits? You do that to open up income, save the money to open up income for those people who don't have it in their budget, right? So when you get at the end, you should review like their income, right? So maybe even a bank statement. So it's that page, it's the closing that's hard, right? So if you've done great at living benefits, save them money. That was very hard for me in the beginning too. And then have understood their financial point, right? So by then you should know if you're at the closing, you should know how much money they make already in Social Security. You should know if they're negative or positive in their account and go from there. And guess what? If they can't afford 5,000 and you've seen it like for your own self, right? I don't ever believe them because everyone says that. I don't ever believe them. So if you've seen it for yourself, they're always negative in their bank account. It's okay to walk away. That's the part where I had issue with in the beginning was learning to walk away because I kept selling those people who were negative and it never brought anyone good.
Right. That's really good. So a couple things there is, again, reading the room. Are they negative all the time? But then finding out, is that the real objection or is that the smokescreen objection? So when you filled this out, what was your main concern? What are you trying to accomplish with this coverage? If you could have coverage, what would be a manageable budget for you? That's a really good line. If you could have coverage, since you did fill this out, what would be a manageable budget? Is it $20 a month? Is it $30 a month? Is it $15 a month? You tell me what would be manageable for you. If they still say nothing, then move on to the next. But try to uncover what the real root of the objection is first. But if someone can't afford it, like they don't have 2 pennies to rub together, then on to the next. Just make sure that you do your due diligence of understanding, well, why is it that they're telling me this? If they filled out a form and they don't have insurance and they have a beneficiary, something was on their mind. And even if it's not getting them 5,000 and it's 2,000, let's start with that. A small cremation, just base them out. Do that. but I always ask what's manageable for you, what would feel comfortable for you. If you could have coverage, what would be the most comfortable amount? Would that be $20 a month? If they say, yeah, okay, that's your small yes. And then you can show them that. But good. Let's kind of keep moving. Da, 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 da. Let's see here. What else we got going on? And then we'll probably jump into some building. So you had good first year success, then you got COVID, almost died. You jumped back from that. That took a while. I remember you being in the field with oxygen tank. Um, and you were still like kicking butt and taking names. You took a lot of excuses away from people, um, because it was touch and go there. And then Chris was in the hospital too for a while. How do you go about asking how much they make or to see a bank statement? So I always ask too in the beginning is your social security more or less than 1425? That's going to help me understand if you are already getting Medicaid or if you're going to be able to get the extra help program. So it's following the qualifying questions in the beginning of your presentation, following it to a T. If you're not following the presentation to a T, crossing your T's, dotting I's, slowing down for those first 90 days, even if it feels awkward and uncomfortable, then you're creating shortcuts and giving yourself more options or abilities to have uh, objection. So it needs to be like I write out exactly what I say in my transition to living benefits. I have written out exactly what I say in my transition into life insurance. I write out what I say if someone gives me an objection, because if I know exactly what to say when it comes up, then I know how to handle that response. Um, let's see here. Da, 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 da.
And I'll add to that too, Laura.
Okay.
If you don't know when to find out how much your income it is, that Medicare part, like Laura Asia was saying, so I just say, hey, are you on Medicaid or Medicare? Medicare, okay, great. So are you paying that 185 a month? And so that gives you a good idea. Okay, they're making less than that 1400, or hey, they're making more than that 1400. Whether they say yes or not, I say, okay, so are you paying that 185 a month? And then that helps you out. And then just say, okay, great. Well, if you were, I was gonna say I was gonna try to help you to get the state to pay that for you. So it's almost like, hey, look, I'm trying to save you money and I'm telling you I'm trying to save you money. So then they're more open on telling you how much they make.
Chris has one question. How do you make sure no one replaces your business? And then we'll move into 5 to 7 minutes of some of the tips that you have as a builder.
Yeah, so branding. Branding is huge. I take probably about the longest I've ever seen anyone brand in a home. Talking to them, I repeat myself several times to them because I want them to remember that before someone comes in, they're going to remember that girl told me to never let anyone come in here. If they do, to give me a call. Or that girl kept saying, leave your money in there for 6 business days. So I want them to remember that. I want them when they open their refrigerator to see me on the refrigerator. I want them to have 5 business cards on their table, one in their wallet, one to their spouse, one to their beneficiary. Anyone who comes in can take a business card. So it's all about branding yourself and also letting them know, hey, look, if anyone comes in here, trying to replace you, and it doesn't matter if it's going to be something in the beneficial for you, right? I let them know because I'm not trying to say this is the best thing for you. Don't trust anyone. I'm letting them know if it's the best for you and they're coming in here and I'm looking at it, I'll help you review that. And guess what? If it is, go ahead. I'm all for the best for you. But if it's not, we're not changing anything. So you need to give me a call. And they'll say, okay, great. Or most times they say, I'm not going anywhere else. And so it's just about branding yourself and like putting a wall up on your business, making sure that anyone who comes in, nasty or not, knows it's your house.
Yeah. I think repeating yourself, people need to hear something almost 10 times for it to click. You know how I know this? By doing this for 10 years. You got to tell your client something 10 times. You got to tell an agent something 10 times before it clicks for them. So don't expect to say it one time and like wonder like why they didn't listen because they didn't hear it. So repeating yourself, branding yourself, taking time to make sure that they feel good and comfortable with you, following through with what you said that you're going to do, creating an area uh, to follow through on your word. If you say that you're going to give them the policy, do it. It's small things like this that keep that wall around your business. Let's move into building real quick, okay? The last 5 or 7 minutes, guys. So when was it that you decided, hey, you know what, I'm doing this at a high level. I've mastered knowing how to sell. Why did you decide to build or become, the Houghton agency and step into that leadership role? Why? And then what are some of the things that you've implemented to create some of the success that you've had?
Yeah, so I knew immediately that I wanted to build Lore because anytime that I've gotten into a career, whether it's for myself or somebody else, I've always wanted to top tier that career because I didn't, I always, I don't know, I don't feel like I was ever good at anything, but I think, or ever had hobbies. So whatever that was that I did work wise that provided for my family, I wanted to be the best at it. And so I wanted opportunities. And I also knew that I didn't want to be a field agent, a solo field agent forever. And so it's a possibility of managing and owning my own insurance industry. So I started building pretty quickly, Laura. I think in my first year that I probably had about like maybe six agents that was maybe 6 to 10. I don't remember. But I was thinking because I had a fast start, Laura, that it could be a great builder and coach. And that's by far the furthest thing when you become a leader is thinking that you were good and then thinking that you could also coach and lead because that itself is two different things, right? The first start is being able to do it. The second thing is to teach someone. And it's what separates a good teacher from a bad teacher, right? It's someone where, you guys taught the same subject, but why is one better than the other? So, I just had to learn honestly that, you know, that I wasn't good. I had to be honest with myself. I wasn't a good coach. I lacked leadership skills. And the reason I knew that, right? So you have to sit down. There's going to be a point in your career in this industry if you're a builder and you just sit there and being an entrepreneur is very scary because it's the thought of, hey, what if I don't get to where I want to go? Right. It's that doubt sometimes that you have when you're broken and you've lost your team over and over again, Laura. And you're sitting there thinking, it's the uncertainty of what if I don't hit my goals? What if I don't become partner, which is mine? And that's scary. But then you have to remember, you have to think back and truly maybe even write things down, which is what I had to do. The only thing constant in my business before I saw a change was myself. Okay, that was the only constant. So when I say that, I mean, I had to develop leadership skills. I had to start being selective at who I bring in. And so the problem with that was me, right? It was me and probably about a few people I hired too. I hired anyone. It didn't matter. Oh, you don't have a car? Great. Well, you can make money for a car. So just join my team. You know what I mean? It didn't matter. It was the desperation of having a team, but realizing that, the quality of people is so much more important than, the quantity, sorry, the quality is way more important, right, than having more people on your team. And so I've seen teams where they maybe have three, but they perform at a 10 leg team, and so that's what I really had to learn, Laura.
So I think that that's really big. So a couple of things. If you're on the call last night, we talked about the abilities, coachability, responsibility, and accountability are the three abilities that you need in this business. And so, it's taking that responsibility of saying, hey, you know what? I'm really good and I've learned how to sell at a high level. And there's a whole nother learning curve, and that's totally normal. And that's the beautiful thing about this business is that it has helped and it does help you develop your whole self, not just one part of you. I love how that you always like you knew that you wanted to scale and that with any business, that's what it takes. And it's being in that leadership role. Let's see here. Selective. You had to learn to be selective. I like this. Desperation refined. Because if you're not a little bit desperate, like if you don't have that like desire, that urge, I cannot wait to build this thing and to blow this thing up, something's wrong. Okay? So you want to have that. That's the thing is that you want to have that and then you learn to refine it. And that's what you've done over the last, 4 years. And now, and again, it goes back to saying, hey, this is what I struggle with. What am I going to do about it? Because now you're able to develop top people coming in their first 90 days because you saw that and you said, I'm going to take the extra time to make sure that I'm developing me, that I'm knowing what I need to do. I'm slowing down not only to know how to sell, but now how am I going to learn how to teach this, telling someone 10 times, reinforcing, what that looks like. Mitra says, did you have a certain amount of money in the bank before you started building?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. So is there any uh reason for that, or what was a nest egg like? Go ahead.
Yeah, the reason for like having money in the bank, or what do you mean?
So did you have a certain amount of money in the bank before you started? And you said yes, you did. Was there did you put that aside specifically for building, or did you how
No,
was
I've always liked a safety net in my bank account, and I haven't always had it. You know, it's definitely something that I've had to learn to have. But I did have it, but the problem was it wasn't growing. Like I wasn't adding to my savings. And because, I never looked at my savings as if like, hey, look, this is something I can touch. No, I didn't touch my savings, but it wasn't growing. And so that was the problem itself. And so when I saw the potential here, like I saved half of my income my first month. Um, and my second and third month, and I was able to put that money aside. And I think that's the biggest thing too, Laura.
so let's kind of ask like, what are you implementing or now to scale and to grow your team. So you get through, because again, when you first start building, you're relying, on folks to help you. Hey, how do I do this? What should I do here? You're getting them in the car. If you can do it at a high level, putting someone in your car to see and watch, that's the first step. Okay, of duplicatability. But as you kind of move into it, what does it look like now of like what are the things that you're putting in place to scale or to hire folks?
Yeah, the biggest thing to scale your business is very similar like selling, but it's different at the same time. And when I say that, because when it comes to selling, right, I treat everyone like Miss Johnson. I say the same thing every single time as if they've never heard life insurance, right? I want them to understand. Whereas if it's so simple that like my child can understood. So I take that Miss Johnson moment into my training as well. And so it's not because I think my agents or any agents I bring on are incapable of understanding what I do, but it's their first time hearing it. And if it's not, that's okay, but we do things different here. And so I treat them like Miss Johnson. And as you like to say, Laura, the newborn stage, which is so important. And you have to remind yourself to, hey, look, I was in their position at one time. I need to be patient. I need to give them a year because, just like you always say, Laura, not everyone pops at the same time. And the biggest thing about building is seeing that pop, whether it's immediate or a year or two from now. I think it's the most rewarding pop when you've been patient and you've watched them, you've developed them. But I would say the biggest thing that I noticed personally was, of course, being more strict in my hiring, but then also developing agents. I had to become a master at training. And when I say that, it's like, okay, just make things duplicatable, be robotic. No, I had to be available. I didn't, like when I say, being available, I mean, sometimes I didn't have boundaries yet, right? I didn't earn the boundaries yet. I didn't earn to cut my phone off at 5 p.m. or 8 p.m. I was always available. You know why? Because I only had a handful of agents. And in that moment, when we only have a handful of agents, Laura, I think you need to be patient and you need to develop what you have, because if you do that, then your agency truly goes. So pour everything you have into them, whether they ask the same questions over and over again or not, or whether they need help in finding that resources because they don't remember how to get there, or they don't know because we have so many resources here. So it's being patient with them, but and understanding that your phone doesn't cut off when you're a business owner, right? But also, you earn a little bit of those boundaries as you go and as you grow. And so I think that was a big part, but also the quarterly. All my agents, they love their quarterly. It's not something that they dread. They love it, Laura, because we sit there and everything's on the table, right? Everything other than what my expectations are for my agents. So I've had to learn how to take that out and set realistic goals, because when you set realistic goals, they not only hit those goals, but they exceed those goals. And so when they meet their personal goals, it aligns with your team goal. And so I'll give you an example. If they're struggling hitting 3,500 but they're close to it, I'm only going to do the 3,500 goal with you for that week. And we're going to break it down to what that is. And I think that's like $59 or $69 app for 5 days. And when you reverse engineer that, right? Because they're coming to you worried, right? They're coming to you with doubt, not understanding, hey, look, I don't know if I can do this, right? Almost broken. And what is your job? Your job is to lead them into going into something that they're confident in, something that's realistic that they can obtain, because that 59 is less intimidating than that 3,500. And so that's kind of how you break it down. And then you go over what they really want. I don't pressure anyone to be a builder if they don't want to build. Right. And we set realistic expectations. If you hit 3,500 by Wednesday, guess what? If you want to be off, I don't care. And when you lay that down, right, and take the pressure off of them, guess what? They perform at an even higher level. And so I think that is huge right there, Laura.
I think that is huge. It's getting those small wins, like how we talk about, like in, our day or in our presentation, is getting those small yeses. It's you helping your agent get those small yeses as well, those small wins. And when they get those small wins, it gives them that pep in their step that they need to do what Chuka's saying, is to go further than they thought that they could by getting that small yes up front. Patience is huge. You got to master patience. Building is not a get rich quick type of thing. It pays you dividends, but it starts with, it's going to pay you in dividends and your patience first, right? And so just know that you're going to need a lot of patience if you want to develop really good people, which are going to be in the business for you for the long haul, which is what we want, which is tenure and doing business with people that we love to do business with. Um, let's see here. Any other question that I have for myself? I know that Kaylin had a question. What does your field training process look like?
Yeah, so of course, it used to be 3 days, but I started seeing a drastic change when I did 5 days, right? 5 days to me was huge. And the thing is, when it comes to training, every agent is different. So if they need more than 5 days, guess what? I'm giving them that. I've already committed my time prior to them getting the field. Why not just give them that, right? Some agents are like, or some managers are like, no, I'm only doing 3 days. I'm only doing this. Well, you have to tailor your training to your agents, and that's the biggest thing. Be flexible with the agent. If they need more, give them more. You only have a handful. I don't have 50 yet. Maybe when I have 50, we'll talk about it. But in the meantime, I'm giving them what they want. I've promised them things that they came in. I've promised them, I've taken time to help them, the directions and resources to help them pass, to put them in training for them to quit their job. I think it's big to give them what they want, something that in a realistic, like giving them and training.
I think that's really big. I think that, having like your base of what you follow. And remember, when we have new agent training, you've got days of field training or on the Zoom. Then it's typical of 3 days, and then they're on their own for 5 days. If you want to do more than three, and if they need it, do it. But then it's making sure that when they're on their own as well for 5 days, you're having those touch points. You are speaking to that agent. Again, like Chuka said, it's that newborn stage. Sometimes newborn babies need to eat a little bit more during that cluster feed. I know, right? Or they need that extra phone call. And so it's knowing what the parameters are during your training and what you should be doing is those touch points. It's making sure that when they're in the field, that they're ready to do, step two of the presentation. They're able to do the door approaches or the phone approaches, and you're rapidly role playing the entire freaking time. The things that you need them to do, you're inspecting what you expect them to be able to do during that time period. And then it's those ongoing, especially for that first month, right? That every once a week, getting back in the car with them, and knowing that for it, your training is not just 3 days. Your training is 90 days. So I want you to think about that. That newborn stage is 90 days. So you have your parameter, but what does it take? It might be 15 extra coaching calls if that's what they need. It might be another field training day. It might be another day in the field after their 90 days if something pops up. So, but I think that's really good. It's patience and focusing on developing the skills that they need. And then again, if you're just starting out, guess who's there to help you with that? Your coaches. Can you be available to put them in your car? Can you be available to put someone in your car? Because as you have someone in your car, that's the first step. Can you show them a good day? That is number one. Let's start there. And that's how we develop our ability to develop others, is by putting people in the car. So if you want to take that first step into becoming a builder, just put people in your car. It doesn't have to be perfect, Put them in your car. It's going to refine you to be able to help them better. As we end, because it's 9:20 and we're going to get going, is what is income like as far as I know it's not get rich quick building. It's that get rich over time, and that patience is there, but it also can pay you dividends. What does that look like from 85K your first year to now?
Yeah, so it's definitely doubled that now, and your job is just so different from then and now. Back then your money, your income solely was yourself on your own pen, whatever you could do. But now it's just different. The dividends are time that you've poured in. And so if I don't know if you want me to say a number, Laura.
Whatever.
um yeah. So, now my dividends of time that I put into my agents and developing, I would say it's anywhere confidently a minimum at anywhere from 8, and at best when, we are rocking it out, I would say to about 10 or 11,000, and so I think that just takes, time. It's not something overnight, but when you start, for anyone who's wanting to build, and you worry about your own personal income, mine has never dropped. And so you think it is because you're taking time away from your own personal numbers. But I think that's really big, Laura.
I think that's big too because the same thing, if you're putting someone in your car 3 days a week during that period, your income's going to go up because you're having someone in the car. And as you are developing them and then their numbers, they start to actually hit the benchmarks, it's only going to go up. And if it's going down for whatever reason, then that's a conversation to have with your coach of what's missing during that piece there that's causing that to happen. And then that's open for coaching. All right, it is 9:22. If there's any last minute one or two questions, and then we need to jump off because y'all got Valentine's and goals to hit and all the things. But I think this was
And
good.
Laura, I do want to add one thing to you,
Okay.
Kaylin. I know you said, hey, what do I do different? This is a big thing I do different too, is clear standards when you get in the car with me, you're training. There's nothing in the way of the hours that we're putting in the field because those are our hours. The second thing is on the third day, I'm very clear with them. I have a text message. I probably told them twice, 2 or 3 times, and I say, hey, look, on that third day, we will split commissions. But if you don't know your 4As and your presentation, like you don't have to know it, but you just have to read it enough to where it's not your first time doing it, right? As if you know how to do that, we'll split commissions. And my gosh, Laura, guess who always knows their 4As and their 10 steps? Every agent who gets in the car with me, right? It's putting that pressure onto them and saying, hey, look, you'll get a lead credit instead, but it's more beneficial if you do commission.
I think that's big. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. If you can have this, then we get to split business. It's the way that you position it, the way that they hear it, guys. So I want you to start thinking about that, not only what you say, but when you say it, how is the other person going to be, how are they going to hear that? Is it going to move the needle for them? All right, 9:23, without further ado, let's have a kick-ass day, 2K today before we eat chocolates. Okay? All right, bye y'all. Ciao. Thank you,
Bye.
Chuekha. Bye.